Hello buddy, it's Van Berman here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the GTX 460 Super Overclocked Edition from Gigabyte. This is their WindForce card. I have to say that I wasn't too keen on the aesthetics when I bought this thing. However, I must say, it's grown on me. It actually looks quite cool. You know, it's a good way of trying to get some nice graphics on there when there's the dual fan design. So this one is quite substantially overclocked compared to the normal reference design already out of the box, as you might be able to tell. It's super overclocked, and I've taken that to the next logical step and increased it by even more just to try and get the best performance. Now, the overclock that I have done was not stable in every game, or it became unstable in one particular game, and then I dropped it and we just went back to the super overclock editions base clocks effectively. So yeah, take from that what you will. There's probably a bit more you can potentially push out of this if you wanted to. The card stayed really cool as well, which was nice to see. And I actually had a 460. It was the first proper card I upgraded to from the one that came with my computer, which I think was a 9600 GT. I can't remember, something like that. And yeah, it served me perfectly well. So we're going to go have a look in and see how it does. I have stuck it in the low spec category because it fits in there pretty much perfectly. It has a gaming score and user benchmark of 25, which is in fact the cutoff, or at the minute it's the cutoff anyway. So let's get into it. So we've got some Shogun 2 footage in the background, which is running on the high preset if you're interested. And we're going to kick off with Left 4 Dead. GTX 460 fits in where you would expect it to. Everything, you know, even the 1% low, even the 0.1% low was above 60. So ran really smooth. Like I say, no surprises here, and would run perfectly pretty much if you had a 120 hertz panel, that's for sure. And yeah, it absolutely destroys the two cards that we've looked at recently, in the 275 and the 5670. No question on that particular one. Moving on to Rocket League, and the scores are pretty good. So 1% low of 29.3 frames, and I must say it didn't feel that stuttery. It definitely felt like it was in that 30 to 60 range. But as you know, there is a few sort of slowdowns, I guess, in Rocket League when you know transitioning from your replays into your kickoffs and what have you, and when there's a lot going on. But yeah, I could quite happily sit there and play Rocket League on it as I pretty much normally would. So that was very pleasing. And then we've just got the other two which are left. So because obviously Rocket League doesn't fit in to the low spec benchmark. So Shogun 2 on DirectX 9 medium was pretty much perfect. As you would expect, that one is much easier than the DirectX 11 one. But once again, you know, I played it on the DirectX 11 with high settings, and that was perfectly playable. And War in the North was pretty much pegged at 60, and of course that one is capped anyway. So yeah, you won't see much more over that. Moving on to the medium set of benchmarks, we've got GTA 5 on running in the background, and I actually did that one because there's a DirectX 10 option, and I managed to get it running comparably to the higher spec cards on that, and that's obviously probably the most interesting one of the lot on here. Everything else is stupidly high, pretty much 60 FPS. Grid 2 was pretty much flawless, 1% low 41, average of 56.5. Yeah, like you wouldn't notice any difference with that, you know, in terms of stuttering or anything. It was very smooth. But GTA 5 on very high on DirectX 10 worked perfectly fine. You know, very similar experience to what you would have on consoles in terms of the graphics and in terms of the frame rate. I know GTA 5 is a bit more of it's now an old game, but it's nice to see something like the 460 being able to run it so well. So if we move on to the hard benchmarks, now I couldn't get any scores on the quote-unquote proper benchmarks. Final Fantasy 15, it was too low for me to get a proper score, and well, the same with the other ones as well. As you can probably imagine, it fits into where we expect to see it. So we have a look at the green charts here. We can see the 460 and see how it performed in with exactly the same settings that we used on the other cards. The one that disappointed me the most here was Skyrim, and it was not a nice experience. And I think part of that is because I've inexplicably turned off the VSync on the global settings. So Skyrim now actually runs uncapped at the moment, or for this particular card anyway. So that's why you've got an average of 104 frames. And I don't know if that plays into why it felt so bad to play. The 1% low is also very low. And I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that the VSync was off. But it was a bit surprising for me, to be honest. And disappointed by it. I mean, the scores are good, of course. Crysis medium settings is not an issue for the 460. And The Witcher 2 was, of course, ran on the lowest settings to compare it with the other cards. But you could quite easily run it on medium and still have around a 40 frame per second average. So that's nice. And whether I would settle playing, probably would settle playing with it on low for The Witcher 2, to be fair, just because it was buttery smooth at that resolution. So, as you can probably gather, there's going to be some pretty good scores that come out of the 460, but Skyrim has let it down. I don't know if it's something I think I want to go and retest at some point. I may well do. If I get the 460 back out again, I think I'll retest Skyrim for the third time, and because I don't know why we've got that discrepancy. I would have expected the 1% low to be much higher, but there you go. So I've got the mandatory 3D Mark scores. Skydiver with a score of 9,612, which, by the way, for both of these, I'm led to believe that they are pretty good scores for a 460, above the upper high average for these particular scores. But yeah, if we compare them to the other cards I've done, it's better than the two low spec ones, and it's much worse than the high spec ones. And we've got XCOM 2 in the background, which I've not addressed yet. I've shown you the scores, but there you go. XCOM 2 actually has a minimum requirements of a GTX 460, so I thought that one would be quite interesting to put in. It's also a different style of game, one that is a bit more methodical, and it's a turn-based game. So I ran this on pretty much very high settings, most of the stuff on, and it is quite a good-looking game anyway, I would say, but it's not as action-packed. The frames don't really matter as much, so you've got all that stuff to consider. But I don't have the scores because I've lost them, but I know that the average was in the low 40s, so, and I can tell you, and you can probably see by the footage as well, it did run really well, even when you're doing like the action shots and what have you. I didn't get any stutter, any slowdown. Obviously, it's a minimum requirement, but you can run this at high setting quite easily, and it's a lot of fun. So, different games, depending on their style, depending on how they play, you've got a good chance of being able to play it. And I'm sorry I don't have the benchmark. If I ever do, like I said with Skyrim, if I ever do go back and re-benchmark, I will also do XCOM 2. So there we have it for the bulk of the benchmarks. We've now just got the final overall scores to look forward to have a look. So we've got the high spec and the low spec effectively, or the normal and the low spec. It did unfortunately gain maximum scores for a lot of the games in the normal spec ones, so that's why that score is so high. A lot of DNFs effectively. So the overall score for the low spec one was a 60.15, and I must say the majority of that score, almost 40 points, or 45 points even I should say, is from Skyrim. And if that was lower, we'd easily be under 50. And as far as I'm concerned, anything under 50 is like quote unquote perfect for those games that we've benchmarked. And I would class the 460 as being perfectly adequate, even to game nowadays, depending on what you want to play. And I think obviously that is the big question when we look at all of these cards. What do you want to play, and is it adequate enough for it? So, the 460 is perfectly fine if you want to play something, like XCOM, Mount & Blade Warband. It's a shame that, Mountain Blade 2 didn't run as well, but there you have it. And yeah, anything, you know, older, 2015 and before, I would say, you know, you were probably running it on this. And I would have thought there's a good amount of like low spec options that the 460 may be able to use to leverage to be able to play certain games. I know that there's, you know, downgrading textures and all that sort of stuff, packs that you can get for certain games. But yeah, I was more than happy using it this time round. Obviously, had a few issues getting it working, but there you go. So I didn't put this in the start, but I spent £14.50 on this particular card, and well spent, to be honest with you. I really like the aesthetics. It will look great on the shelf of graphics cards, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of it and what you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all on the next one. Bye for now.